It seems like all the last All Star weekends have been progressively getting worse, and then this one was just really the cherry on the top. There were so many things wrong with it, but I will actually focus so much more on the last day and a half on Saturday and Sunday, where the events that really kind of matters. You know, if you really like the celebrity games, go ahead. If you like the skills challenge, go ahead, have fun with that. For me, not that fun of a watch, in my opinion. I think it's somewhat cool, but not as exhilarating. The only fun part, I guess, was when Chris Paul and Wemby did their little DQ attempt or trying to skirt around the rules and whatnot. But honestly, I don't really care about all the other events. The only events that I really care about, which I think a lot of other people care about, is the dunk contest, the 3 point contest, and the All Star game. So the dunk contest was, it's something. It was good. Mac McClung always brings the intensity, the electricity to the crowd. But one person I really want to shout out to is Stephon Castle. I mean, regardless of what game he was playing, whether it was the Rising Stars or even on Sunday when he was going against the Vets, or even just being in the dunk contest, he really just gave everything that he had. You could tell that he was actually trying and actually trying to make a name for himself for the All Star weekend, and at least make things a little bit more exciting, make things a little bit more competitive. But you can only do so much as a singular player who is really relatively unknown and doesn't really have much of a following in comparison to all the other players that's on the court with him. But the dunk contest was okay. This is probably like one of the few years where I actually missed part of the dunk contest because I didn't really care to see it. I only saw like the middle towards the end, and it was just okay. And I completely missed the 3 point contest and had to watch it afterwards. Had it recorded, watch it afterwards to see, what was I missing. And the 3 point contest is actually one of my favorite contests. It used to be the dunk contest, but the dunk contest is just it's a tough contest, and I have a few ideas that I think can make a little bit improvements for all these events, except for, and I'll get to it, the All-Star game, the All-Star game. But the dunk contest has pretty much waned in its popularity, or at least excitement for me, because there's really not much there. And it's not that I've seen every single dunk there is. I really don't think so. But I just think that the format in which it is currently right now does not give one enough time for players to actually think about and practice things that they want to do. I think you need at least like a 4 week notice, maybe even longer, like a 2 month notice or something. I don't know. It really doesn't matter to me, but I think they need a little bit more time. But a lot of the dunkers, they tried to give their best, except for the Jackson kid. He just basically just ran out of juice, ran out of steam. And listen, dunking is hard. Like, it's harder. It's one of the hardest things you can do, especially if you're relying on your stamina and athleticism. And the dunk contest kind of is tough when you miss your first two dunks, because after you miss your first two dunks, the excitement kind of goes because everybody kind of can picture what it looks like. And now it's just like, well, when is he gonna finish the dunk so we can at least get on with it? But that's maybe just a me thing. That might not be a you thing. But the dunk contest was just all right. Mac McClung doing it in Black History Month again, 3 times in a row. Shout out to him. But the 3 point contest was okay as well. It was a decent showing. Shout out to Darius Garland. Shout out to Tyler Hero. I think the finals were a pretty exciting thing to watch, especially between the three. It was pretty close too, especially on like the last bracket where Buddy Hield had to make every single one, and then he missed the fourth one, and that's when it was over. But it was pretty exciting. It could be a little bit better in my opinion if they tried something a little bit different. That's not really the big shocker for me. The worst thing on every single All-Star weekend is always the All-Star game. And honestly, it kind of started early. Me always being a little bit slightly optimistic when they do rule changes. I am never against doing rule changes to change up the flow, change up the system. But this one was kind of a little bit weird because you put the young guys in a very precarious situation where they're pretty much playing the foil of, hey, we want to beat the older guys, the older vets, but nobody really wants to see you. And so it's actually better for you to lose first game than for you to win any game. But I think the disappointment kind of started a little bit early because I just think that there was just way too many commercials. Just way too many commercials. Like, every time we were getting into some action, it was just going to commercial. It almost felt like basketball was the commercial, where I was actually supposed to watch advertisements all day, and then I get intervened or interrupted by a couple displays of basketball by some pretty talented people. But it didn't feel like that was the focus. And then we had like the really weird, and maybe it's just a generation, and maybe it's not my demographic, and I can readily admit they were not targeting me for the halftime performance or whatever performance that they were having, because I am never going to be up in arms and saying that we always need to see E40 in any shape or form. I think his listen, if you like E40, you like E40. If you don't, you're probably like the rest of the world who does not live in the Bay. All right, but funny enough, I was somewhat vibing with it, even though I had the E40 thing, and E40 is not my guy, but I was somewhat vibing with it, and I was texting my girlfriend. I was like, what if they did something similar to the Super Bowl where they promoted it as like a headliner for the All-Star game? That would be really, really cool. And then she texts me Saweetie, thinking that I'm thinking that she's saying that, oh, we should have Saweetie headline it. And I was like, this is no time for jokes. And then as I was about to send the no time for jokes, I hear her song on my TV, and my jaw just dropped. I could not believe what I was hearing. And honestly, is this just a thing where the West Coast or the Bay is like struggling to find talent, or is this like an NBA thing? I don't really listen to Bay Area music or anything like that. But do you guys think that they could have done better in that situation? Because I think having Saweetie play a song that came out, like 4 or 5 years ago, and just trying to, I don't know, maybe it's just a me thing. Again, maybe it is just a me thing, and you guys are just suffering with it. It's my channel. If you watch the video, you're suffering with me, okay? But that was completely one of the worst experiences, like watching something that was just already at best, and then it just got progressively worse. But let's talk about the games, man, because I have a lot to say about the games. The game format was terrible. Like I said before, the rising stars or the young kids, they are playing as the foil. They can't really win, and they should not win because they just don't have the excitement on their team, and it doesn't work well for a story. Like, it just wasn't a good assortment of resources to have them out there. And I think it was just pretty bad. Next, the lethargic nature of the game just always reminds me that I should not be watching this. Like, it is a completely different subject, and it's a completely different type of game than I'm used to seeing. And the game that I'm used to seeing is at least somewhat like, you play, a little bit loosey-goosey in the first half and a little bit in the third quarter. But when you get to like the halfway of the third quarter and then like the fourth quarter, you kind of see the intensity. People will be like, okay, cool. Let's try something a little bit. Let's try something. Let's actually try to win. That's usually how it would happen back in the day. And I'm not looking at it through rose-tinted glasses. I'm literally looking at it from what it was, because even back in the day, it wasn't that great, but it was way better than what we have now. But also, and one thing I just want to put in there, if we're talking about everything outside the game, as much as I do respect the honesty, I think having somebody like Draymond Green constantly destroy your product in front of millions who are supposed to enjoy your product was not a good look. And it's just like, I just don't understand what was the purpose. Because I think he said this before the All-Star game, that he just don't like the format. And so you can't have somebody who is actively undermining the product that you want to put out to the audience, put out to your consumers, your customers, because then they're just like, well, if he doesn't like it, and TV Man is telling me that, hey, this guy does not like it, he thinks it's a terrible format, well, maybe now, because they have put that thought in my head, that maybe it is a really bad product, maybe it is not that great. And so I'll look at it as like, maybe I should probably turn it away because it is kind of bad. And so having Draymond Green was just like really not necessary. And I honestly think that he won't be back, or if he will be back, he cannot say like negative things. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't critique it, but to the way that he was like railroading it, like literally undermining the product, how bad he was talking about it. And that is not what you need on a product that's already pretty bad. And it's not bad just because of the format. Now, the format wasn't great. It's bad because the players within it is not playing that hard. Now, you don't have to play hard per se, but you do have to kind of like try. You have to at least fake it to the people who are watching, that be like, okay, cool. They are at least showing me a facade of what it could look like if Stephen Curry and Jokic was on the same team, or Stephen Curry and James Harden was on the same team. This is what they would do, and look how they are cooking up their defenders or anything like that. There was really only like a few players on the court, like Stephon Castle in the All-Star game when he was playing, that was going hard, or even Wemby that was playing that was going hard. Outside of that, like, everybody else was really lethargic, and it was boring. It was boring to watch. And so that was not great to see at all. And then to put the cherry on top, man, maybe, again, it's just a me thing. Maybe it is just a me thing. But I do not like having Kevin Hart just disrupt the flow of everything. I don't think he was that funny. And maybe he was funny to some people. Like I said, maybe it's a me thing. Maybe it's an age demographic thing. Maybe it is not for me. But from what I've seen so far on the internet, and of course, the internet, it's not real life, but what I've seen so far is that nobody really enjoyed anything that he did. And so it was really just a net negative, at least for me, that just detracted away from the enjoyment of the product. And then ads was just all over. They played like, 30-40 minutes of a basketball game, but we had so many breakage and stoppages and this and that. And I understand that you kind of need to do that if you're going to have this format, but just the amount of advertisement, it just was incredible. It was too much. And so I say all this because there has to be some type of silver line. There has to be something that we can do to improve it. I always say this: add the 1v1. Please add the 1v1. Do it by position, or if you want to do it by guard, forward, and centers, that'd be cool by me. Whether or not you want to do 3 dribbles, 5 dribbles, doesn't matter to me. Hoopers are going to hoop. Have that. At least we can see some type of pride because it's one-on-one. And maybe they're going to get it together and actually play well. Next, I think for the 3-point contest, I think 3-point contest is fine. I think honestly that you really don't need to do any changes to the 3-point contest. But if you were to do a change, one thing I would love to see is if they were to have like some sort of teams element where it's similar to like a relay and track, where you are putting your best last and they're supposed to take it home. So you have a team of, people from the East, and you have a team of people from the West, and it all comes down to Damian Lillard versus Steph Curry. Let's say all the way to 3, to the third leg, that everything is tied basically. And so now it's a race to see who's going to win. And maybe they have them shoot somewhat similarly at the same time, like one goes before the other. Of course, you need to have some type of order, but instead of just having one team versus the other team, have it kind of like them going against each other, or maybe have them doing it at both ends of the court. And, you just need a bunch of cam work to make sure that you can capture both of them. I don't know, maybe there's something there, but that's just an idea. Dunk contest, I always said it before, you need to have some element of street ball. Street ball dunking is the best dunking you can have. Imagine Jordan Kilganon or any of the other young guys as well, like Rivera, I think that's his name. He can jump too. So imagine that these guys are just doing some phenomenal things going against the NBA players, and that will spark them to actually do a little bit more in terms of dunking and actually have more of the star names. And that'll be pretty good in terms of some little bit of a gimmick to get more of the fans involved, not only in the NBA, but in the sport of basketball just in general. For the All-Star game, I really don't know what you should do. Like, you can do so many different formats, and Charles Barkley has said this before, where he was talking to Draymond to, rebuke what he said, is that, it really comes down to whether or not y'all want to play or not. Because this is only an issue because of how the lack of play that you guys have put year after year into these games. And, a lot of times the old heads always hate on the young guys, especially in the NBA. The NBA media is not that great. But this is the one time where Charles Barkley is 1,000% correct. This issue only stems from them not caring to play a little bit, or at least trick us to be like, okay, maybe they're trying a little bit. And so I don't really know what you kind of do there at all, like literally at all, because no matter what type of format you do, there's really not much you can do. The only other thing I'll say for the only other thing that I would do to make the All-Star game a little bit better is maybe add some incentives where it's based on stats. So like, Wemby getting 3 blocks, that gets him like 50K or something like that. So it's like more defensive focus, and also you can put like some incentives for offense so that they can have a little bit more. Or maybe again, you just do something where it's along the lines of investing in charity. They've done that before too, but I don't know. At the end of the day, it really comes down to whether or not they're gonna care, and just this product that they have just in general, it's just not good. Now, I don't know if the NBA players don't care or the NBA as an organization don't care, but this was one of the worst products that I've seen. And I actually don't like making a video like this because the All-Star weekend used to be one of my favorite things to watch. It used to be something that me and my dad would watch all the time. We would barbecue. Yes, we would barbecue in February and watch the game, watch the theatrics of everything, the dunk contest, the three-point contest, and just have a ball. But now it's just really not what it used to be. And I'm not trying to look at it from a nostalgic lens, but I'm just trying to look at it as like, what could it be right now? We have some of the greatest players to ever play the game, and the product for the All-Star game is just at the worst that it's ever been.